Joseph is her estranged husband. Deputies say they were called out by her 17-year-old son to a home on Garrett Road in Ridgeway for a welfare check Saturday and confirmed she was dead.
October 18th, 2025 does not begin with chaos. It begins quietly, too quietly. The kind of quiet that settles over a house in the middle of the day, when the world outside keeps moving, but something inside has already stopped. At 12:15 p.m., a teenage boy's voice cracks through the calm as he speaks to a 911 operator. He is trying to be brave. He is trying to explain. His words come out uneven, trembling, like they're breaking apart before they reach the phone. He says his mother won't wake up. He says she's cold. He says something is wrong.
Developing story out of Henry County. Sheriff's deputies responding to a welfare check on Saturday found a woman dead in a home south of the Ridgeway area, and they've identified the victim as Rhonda Lockett.
When deputies arrive at 1159 Garrett Road in Ridgeway, Virginia, nothing appears out of place. The house sits peacefully beneath the autumn sky. No shattered windows, no overturned furniture. It looks like a home paused mid-routine, as if whoever lived here simply stepped away for a moment. Then deputies enter the back bedroom. Rhonda Hairston Lockett is found unresponsive. 39-year-old mother, sister, daughter, and a woman whose life, until this moment, had been shaped by duty and endurance, by showing up even when it was hard, by holding others together while quietly carrying her own weight. The air inside the house feels wrong, heavy in a way first responders recognize instantly, a silence that does not belong to sleep or accident. What begins as a routine welfare check fractures into something darker, something irreversible, and one question rises above all others, immediate and unsettling, echoing through every room and every mind. Rhonda's story does not begin with her death. It begins years earlier in Martinsville, Virginia, where she was born on April 3, 1986, into a world rooted in faith, family, and tradition. She was raised in a close-knit household where church was not just a place, but a rhythm, where Sundays meant pressed clothes, shared meals, and voices lifted together in song. At Antioch Christian Church, Rhonda was known for her voice, strong and soulful, carrying warmth rather than volume, filling the sanctuary without demanding attention. She didn't sing to be heard. She sang because it was part of her, woven into her identity like prayer and patience. Those who knew her describe a woman who carried responsibility early, someone others leaned on without needing to ask. She became a mother, a role she embraced fully, pouring herself into her children with a devotion that left little room for rest. Friends recall her smile arriving before her words, her habit of listening more than speaking, her belief that problems could be endured if you faced them quietly and kept moving forward. But beneath that calm exterior were pressures unseen, the kind that accumulate slowly, unnoticed, until they begin to bend even the strongest foundations.
The sheriff's office now naming Joseph Lockett as a suspect in the deadly shooting of Rhonda Lockett.
As investigators move through the house, piecing together the final hours of Rhonda's life, they sense that this was not a moment born of chaos, but of something simmering beneath the surface. There are no signs of forced entry, no frantic struggle frozen in place, just the unsettling stillness of a life interrupted where it stood. Outside, neighbors gather in hushed clusters, whispering disbelief, scanning the street for a familiar figure who should be there but isn't. The absence grows louder by the minute, because in a story already heavy with loss, the missing presence of the man closest to her does not feel like a coincidence. It feels like the beginning of a much darker chapter still unfolding. She graduated from Magna Vista High School in 2004, remembered less for academic ambition and more for kindness. Rhonda was the kind of person people trusted instinctively, the kind who remembered birthdays, showed up early, stayed late, and checked in when something felt off. Instead of college, she chose work. Responsibility came first. Bills needed paying, the family needed support. Dreams could wait. In 2020, she began working at Drake Extrusion Inc., a factory job that demanded long hours and physical endurance. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy, but Rhonda showed up every day. Co-workers described her as upbeat, dependable, and the person who kept morale alive during exhausting shifts. Outside of work, her life revolved around her two sons, Omar and Xavier. Every decision she made passed through one filter. What's best for my boys? Loss had already shaped her long before 2025. She had buried a brother. Then, in October of 2022, her father died. That loss reshaped the family. Rhonda became the emotional center overnight. The one who called every day. The one who organized, reassured, and held everyone together while carrying her own grief quietly. She did not collapse under pressure. She absorbed it. Joseph Chad Lockett entered her life as someone unassuming, from Figsboro, Virginia. Quiet, reserved. He attended church. He blended in. To outsiders, he appeared stable, even gentle. What most people did not know was that Joseph was a convicted violent felon, legally barred for life from owning or possessing a firearm. That detail would later become impossible to ignore. They married on April 26, 2021. A small ceremony. Modest joy. A honeymoon in Las Vegas. Smiling photos. Optimism. The kind of beginning that suggests a future built slowly and carefully. For a time, it seemed to work. They attended church together, shared routines, played the roles expected of them. But control rarely announces itself loudly at first. It arrives subtly, in tone, in timing, in questions that feel less like concern and more like accusation. Over time, arguments became more frequent. Joseph's patience thinned. His need to dominate conversations grew. Rhonda began shrinking emotionally, measuring her words, navigating moods, choosing silence over escalation. Family members noticed changes. The lightness they once knew dulled. The laughter came less easily. By early October 2025, Rhonda made a decision that would change everything. A decision shaped not by impulse, but by exhaustion. By the quiet accumulation of moments where her voice had been diminished and her choices narrowed. She chose to leave, not with shouting or slammed doors, but with clarity, telling Joseph she wanted a divorce. And in that instant, something shifted inside her. A sense of air returning to her lungs. A sense of relief that felt almost unfamiliar. She began posting messages about self-love and independence, about reclaiming joy and confidence, about steering her own life again, and to outsiders they looked like ordinary affirmations. But to investigators later they would read like a marker in time, a signal flare. Because statistically the most dangerous moment for a woman in a controlling relationship is not when she stays, but when she decides to go. When control is threatened and rejection becomes intolerable.
The man wanted in Henry County for the murder of his estranged wife is in custody. Deputies believe this man, Joseph Chad Lockett, is responsible for the shooting death of his wife, Rhonda Lockett.
The final week unfolds without spectacle. No public arguments spilling into view. No frantic phone calls or visible breakdowns. Just a silence that feels heavy. The kind of silence that presses against the walls. Friends notice nothing unusual. Neighbors hear nothing alarming. Yet beneath the surface, tension coils tighter and tighter. Investigators would later believe this is when intent began to harden, when the reality of being left stopped feeling temporary and started feeling permanent, when Joseph began to understand that persuasion was no longer working and that the future he assumed was slipping away. October 18th arrives quietly, the kind of morning that feels deceptively ordinary. The house is calm, sunlight filters through familiar windows. Rhonda is home, coffee is brewed, laundry is folded. Routines continue as they always have. There is no sign of fear, no hurried packing, no sense that this is anything other than another day. Joseph arrives without force. Either the keys are still his or the door is opened willingly. And that detail matters because it speaks to trust, or at least to habit. Whatever happens next unfolds behind closed doors, away from witnesses, inside walls that have absorbed years of private conversations, apologies, arguments, reconciliations. Inside that house, time seems to slow, moments stretching as words are exchanged that no one else will ever hear. Perhaps there is pleading, perhaps there is anger, carefully restrained. Perhaps there is the cold finality of a decision that will not be reversed. Investigators can only reconstruct fragments, the sequence inferred from evidence rather than observation. But what is clear is that this is the point of no return, the moment where rejection collides with control, where a life poised on the edge of independence meets someone unwilling to let go. Later, when the calm of that morning is contrasted with what follows, the normalcy feels chilling because it reminds us how violence rarely announces itself, how it often arrives quietly, wrapped in familiarity, how the most dangerous moments are not marked by chaos but by stillness, and how a decision made in the name of freedom can become the catalyst for tragedy when someone else decides they would rather destroy than lose control. There is a confrontation. Investigators believe Rhonda stands her ground. She does not retreat from her decision. And in that moment, control slips completely from Joseph's grasp. A single gunshot ends her life. No signs of struggle, no ransacking, no chaos, just sudden, irreversible silence. Joseph leaves. He makes a critical mistake. He leaves the firearm behind. For a man legally forbidden from possessing one, the weapon alone becomes damning evidence. He disappears.
A manhunt underway tonight on Detroit's west side for a murder suspect with a lengthy, violent criminal history.
At 12:15 p.m., Rhonda's son makes the call that brings law enforcement back into the house. Deputies secure the scene. The medical examiner confirms a gunshot wound. Evidence is collected meticulously over the next 2 days. The estranged husband becomes the immediate focus. Charges are prepared. A public alert is issued. Joseph Chad Lockett is now wanted for first-degree murder. Armed. Dangerous. The community reacts instantly. Social media fills with grief, anger, and disbelief. Rhonda's brother Casey posts an emotional plea for justice. Her co-workers mourn, her church prays. 2 children wait in shock, their world permanently altered. On October 20th at 5:45 p.m., a tip leads police to 225 Niblet Drive in Martinsville. Tactical units surround the home. There is no dramatic standoff, no chase. Joseph exits peacefully. He is taken into custody without resistance. The manhunt ends quietly, just as the crime began. The charges are severe: first-degree murder, use of a firearm in the commission of a felony, possession of a firearm by a violent convicted felon. Under Virginia law, he faces life imprisonment, possibly the death penalty. In the aftermath, the community gathers in a quiet solidarity that feels almost tangible, a collective heartbeat of sorrow and remembrance. At Drake Extrusion, a memorial blooms in the chill of early morning. Wreaths and candles arranged with trembling hands, names etched on paper and stone. A balloon release punctuates the sky. Tiny orbs drifting upward like fragile whispers of memory, carrying prayers and unspoken regrets. Hymns are sung through tears, voices cracking but refusing to falter, each note a tribute, each breath a recognition of what was lost. Stories are shared, Rhonda's warmth, her unwavering work ethic, the quiet, steadfast devotion she poured into her children. Her laughter, the gentle way she greeted strangers, the way she held her sons close on long, ordinary nights, now linger in the corners of homes and workplaces, echoing in the spaces she once filled with life. Her sons grow up carrying both her love and her absence, a dual inheritance of tenderness and grief that shapes every step they take. This case matters beyond one family. It stands as a mirror reflecting a national crisis, the silent epidemic of separation-related violence that too often escalates unnoticed, fueled by firearms that turn rage into lethal finality. Warning signs flash and fade in plain sight. Cries for help muffled by disbelief, societal inertia, or fear. Rhonda Hairston Lockett is remembered not only for the tragic circumstances of her death, but for the life she led. A life marked by courage, resilience, and a capacity for love that refused to waver, even when the world seemed unsteady around her. Justice moves forward at a pace that feels measured and almost cruel, slow and deliberate, while the wounds it cannot mend linger in the quiet moments, in the spaces where laughter should have been, in the eyes of children who will never forget. Yet her name remains, spoken in whispers and in shouts, remembered in shared stories, etched into hearts determined to resist erasure, carried forward by those who insist that her story will not fade into silence. Her legacy becomes a call to awareness, a challenge to communities to act before tragedy strikes, a reminder that vigilance, compassion, and remembrance are our tools against the unseen dangers that shadow everyday life. If Rhonda's story moved you, if it reminded you of the fragility of life and the power of remembering, subscribe now, share this video, and join a community that refuses to let voices like hers vanish into the quiet. Because every view, every click keeps her story alive and ensures that the lessons of her life and her death echo far beyond Drake extrusion.